What's up, everybody? My name is Erin, and welcome to the Madmaker Studio, and welcome back to Lamplight City. We finished our first case last time, and we're about to hop into a new one. We've already explored our lovely home. So we've just got to meet Upton at the ruined coffee house again.
Hello, Upton.
I'm glad you came, Fordham. Sorry for disturbing you this late.
I'm curious to know what's so important that it couldn't wait until morning.
An infant kidnapping in Lyon. The report came in tonight just before my shift ended. The family wants to keep the investigation very low-key. They're afraid if word gets out, they'll have all sorts of ne'er-do-wells making false ransom claims. That's why I suggested they let you investigate first. Head over to 45 Belcourt Street. That's the home of Malcolm and Miriam Harris, the parents of the kidnapped boy.
Harris? As in Harris Construction Company?
The very same. Owned by Malcolm's father, no less. Now you see why they wanted to keep this out of the public eye.
Indeed. If they manage to get a new transatlantic airship off the ground, it'll be an aura mine. I can see why they'd make an easy target. Okay, I'm on it. I'll try and find him as soon as I possibly can.
Right. Good luck on your investigation. Come see me again once you figured things out, or if you just need to talk. I'll be here all day tomorrow as well, so feel free to stop by.
Let's roll!
Mr. Miles Fordham is here to see you, sir.
Very good, Mr. Havelock. Send him up.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Fordham. I'm Malcolm Harris.
I'm terribly sorry to hear about what's happened, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Fordham. You were very highly recommended by Miss Upton. She said you'd be able to solve this faster and more discreetly than the police. I admit it's a rather unorthodox approach, but we're desperate.
I understand. I'll do all I can to find the kidnapper and bring your son back unharmed.
If you'd like to examine the nursery, it's just through that door to the left. I'll ask you to please try and keep quiet as I just sent my wife to bed. Her nerves are rather shot, you see.
Yes, of course.
I know the hand and waistcoat pose is supposed to look stately, but to me it always looks like the person is scratching themselves.
Right?
She looks like she's up to something. I wouldn't get too close, Miles. That vase is probably worth more than your entire building. It's nice to see that tea is still served here even in times of tragedy. I'm sure the only location the Harrises care about is wherever they are at any given moment.
A child is missing, Bill. Let's be professional.
Interesting. This fabric looks as though it came from a garment of some kind.
The curtain.
Be careful not to cut yourself, Miles. I don't think the Harris family has ever seen blood that isn't blue.
Damn, Bill.
It looks rather flimsy. Let's not try sitting on it. Probably won't be another year or so before the child gets any practical use out of those blocks beyond putting them in his mouth. Look, you can see the balcony extends all the way around the side of the manor.
That would make it rather easy for someone to access this window from the outside.
No evidence of what was used to smash the glass, though. A steam-powered bottle warmer. Certainly beats having to do it in the fireplace. Or in the case of my parents, over a barrel fire. That's odd. Why is there a loose button in the crib? I'm no expert on children, but it seems like it would be dangerous to have around an infant.
Did it come from, like, the infant's clothes, or is it connected to the torn fabric by the window?
Nice mobile. Custom made, too. There'll be no mistaking what family this child comes from. Yeah, the kidnapper left the child's blanket behind. There doesn't appear to be any trace of the silver spoon, though.
Bill? The family is rich, but let's focus that a child, a little baby, is missing.
Some sort of fuzzy animal wearing a waistcoat. Charming. My friend Bunny. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want a giant imaginary rabbit for a friend.
Why not? He can tell you when the world's going to end.
Bear's picnic. Something about a group of giant human-like bears eating together in the woods is slightly unsettling. Look at that. The kid has a toy chest. My sister and I used to have to keep our toys buried in the backyard. Of course, that is because the only toys we had were dead rats.
Gross.
Nice view of the garden from up here.
I don't think we can do anything else. We can't take anything with us, but if we look in our case book, we should have current case, the Purloin Progeny. Charles Harris, infant son of the heir to Harris Construction Company, has been kidnapped. Who did it and where did they take the child? So we need to speak to the family. That's our to-do list. We don't have any clues yet, though I think the torn fabric and the button might be clues that we should include here, but okay. Alright, so this gives us everything that we need to do for our current case. Let's see if we can get out of here and talk to the dad again.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
No doubt you do, but I'm really not in the mood to talk right now. It's been a difficult evening, and I'm not certain I have it in me to answer your questions at the moment.
Fair enough, but I will need to ask you about the incident at some point.
Yes, that's fine. Just not now.
Huh. There's a small emblem sewn onto the side of this piece of fabric. It just says SS.
Somebody's initials, maybe?
Okay, so we just had to click on it twice.
Be careful not to cut yourself, Miles. I don't think the Harris family has ever seen blood that isn't blue.
Oh dear.
What's happening?
Wonderful. The soporific has started working.
Oh,
Well done,
no.
Flynn. Now how are you supposed to... What's the word I'm looking for?
Instigate, interrogate.
Oh no, his voice is
just had
slipping
it on the
out.
tip of my tongue.
Perhaps it's time to call it a night.
I forgot we took soporific. Is the dad gonna look different? I have expected him to be like a monster. Or something not human sitting in
it's
that
all
chair.
good now. He'll know it's all wrong. I am fading.
Well, what do we do?
Well, Mr. Harris, I believe I've done all I can for right now.
Did you find anything?
Yes, I believe I have some leads I can pursue. But the most important thing to do in cases like this is wait to hear from the kidnappers. I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue my investigation and ask you and your wife some questions once you've had time to calm down a bit. In the meantime, I suggest you stay here and get some sleep. We'll all need it.
Huh.
Miles, wake up. It's nearly noon.
Ah, so it is.
Why didn't you come to bed when you got home last night?
It was late. I didn't want to disturb you.
So what was so urgent about the case Upton sent you?
I'm trying to track a kidnapped child.
Oh my goodness. That's awful.
Yes, the pressure's on, but I think I should be able to crack it.
Assuming you actually managed to get anything done at the Harris Manor today.
Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Also, we've got company. Mrs. Delacroix is having her hair done here today, so please make yourself presentable.
You mean I'm not already?
At least do something about your hair. I do have a reputation to maintain after all.
What's wrong with my hair?
Do you really want me to answer that? We'll be here all day. It's admirable just how organized Adelaide is. Maybe someday the same can be said about you.
I was gonna fix my hair in the mirror, but I guess we'll just leave.
And then he said, "Oh, hello there. I don't believe we've met."
Mrs. Delacroix, this is my husband, Miles. Miles, this is Mrs. Delacroix.
Pleasure to meet you, madam.
Likewise, young man. Pleasure.
Is everything all right, Mrs. Delacroix?
Oh, yes, everything's fine. It's just that, well, you weren't what I was expecting, is all.
Keep your head, Miles. She may be a close-minded idiot, but she's just an old lady.
What were you expecting exactly?
What were you expecting exactly?
Well...
Now then, Mrs. Delacroix, what was it that you were telling me about Mr. Delacroix and his dogs?
Oh, yes. So, Harold came in and said...
Impressive. She got off pretty easy. I was expecting a repeat of the Parsons incident. You should give Adelaide a kiss on the way out, though, just to make the old bat feel extra uncomfortable.
Can I?
Addie?
Not right now, Miles. I'm busy. We can talk once I finish with Mrs. Delacroix.
Goodbye, dearest.
I look forward to your return, my love.
Remind me, Miles, how is finding some rich people's kidnapped baby going to help us track down the flower shop burglar?
I don't know, Bill.
I have no idea. Maybe it won't, but this needs to be done.
Very noble of you, Miles. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were purposefully stalling.
Don't be ridiculous. I want to find the man as much as you do. You know that.
Hey, I still
Right.
gotta work,
Well, if you
get
plan on
paid,
solving
and
this
eat.
case, you'll need your full wits about you.
I do have my full wits about me. I'm perfectly capable of doing this.
Yes, and I'm perfectly capable of being alive. I just choose to be this way because it saves on the laundry expenses. You can't deny it. You need to stop taking the soporific, Miles. Adelaide has been trying to get you to stop for months, and Upton already suspects something is amiss. Not to mention your little episode last night. Trust me, no one is going to want to hire the dullard detective.
Clever. Did you come up with that one all by yourself?
What are you going to do when the cases stop coming in? How long before you get put away in Riverview?
If I do get locked away, it'll be your fault.
Which is exactly why you need to get back to your normal routine so you can find the burglar.
Fine, I'll stop, but if you keep me awake at night, but it doesn't mean we'll find the burglar tomorrow, but it only means I'll wake up earlier. Huh?
All right, fine. I'll stop. But you know that doesn't guarantee we'll find the burglar any sooner.
Yeah, I'm aware, but it increases the odds significantly. Well, I'm glad that's settled then. I knew you'd see things my way eventually.
It's not as though you gave me much of a choice.
In time, you'll thank me. Probably not before the withdrawal hits, though.
Don't make me change my mind on this, Bill.
Mr. Fordham, you're back. Allow me to introduce my wife, Miriam.
Hello.
A pleasure, Mrs. Harris. I wish we could have met under better circumstances, but I assure you I'm doing all I can to find your son.
Thank you, Mr. Fordham.
Mr. Harris, has there been any communication from the kidnapper?
None at all.
Well, I'll have another look around, if you don't mind.
Miles, didn't you notice something a bit strange about the Harrises?
Quite a few things, actually. What are you referring to?
His son was just kidnapped, yet they're each on their own side of the sitting room. not comforting each other, not crying together. Nothing.
They're stuck-up rich people. Not exactly the type to show emotion.
Miles, you know I'm the most cynical person there is when it comes to their type. But this isn't normal behavior, even for snobs. This goes deeper than saving face. There's something going on between them. I think you should find out what.
Are you sure they're not just like blaming each other for something?
If only the flower shop burglar was as easy to find as this clue was.
Okay, good. Yeah, we needed to pick it up again to add it to the inventory. Exit. Let's look at our clues. A piece of torn fabric, seemingly from a garment. It has an emblem sewn on with initials SS. A single loose button found in the baby's crib. Excuse me. Got no suspects yet. No new documents. We need to talk.
I have some questions for you if you're up to answering them, Mrs. Harris.
I'll try my best, Mr. Fordham.
Tell me what you know about your son's kidnapping.
Oh, my poor baby.
Mrs. Harris, I know this is difficult, but I need as much information as you can give me so I can bring your son back.
Yes, you're right. I have to stay strong. For Charles. It happened sometime between 6 and 8 last night, I think. Both my husband and I had gone out. Charles was in the care of his nanny, Mrs. Davis. I arrived home first, around 8:30, and that's when I found this scene in the nursery, as it was.
And what was it you found?
Mrs. Davis, unconscious in her chair, the broken window, and Charles missing from his crib. Malcolm arrived home shortly afterwards, around 9, and then immediately sent our butler, Mr. Havelock, to notify the police. We stayed up waiting for any contact from the kidnappers, but there was nothing.
You said you arrived home first. Where were you last night?
Oh, I was visiting with some of my friends. We gathered at one of their homes for a concert.
I see. And your husband?
He was at the social club with his friends as well, I believe.
Wait a minute. I know this attitude all too well. This woman is hiding something. Most likely from her husband. I doubt it's voices from beyond the grave. So the question is, what's her secret?
Oh, tell me about Mrs. Davis.
What can you tell me about Mrs. Davis?
Well, she's worked for us since Charles was born, a little over 6 months ago.
How did you come to employ her?
Malcolm's mother had a friend whose daughter she used to care for. She came highly recommended. We've never had any problems with her. She's always been a dream.
Where is she now?
In her room, I would guess. With Charles missing, there's little for her to do.
Where might I find her room?
There's a small building just around the back of the manor. Hers is the 4th door from the left.
Can you think of any reason why your son would be a target for kidnapping?
It could be that someone wants our money, or some lunatic who's angry about the new airship. My husband's an investor, and my father-in-law owns the company building it, you see. I just don't know, Mr. Fordham. Frankly, the fact that something like this could even happen is just terrifying.
Tell me about your son.
Charles is our only child. He's such a good boy. Never makes a fuss. Always very sweet. Oh, Charles, you must be so frightened out there without your mother. Oh, please, Mr. Fordham. You have to bring him home.
I'll do my best. Tell me a bit about yourself, Mrs. Harris.
Mr. Fordham, my son has been kidnapped and is out there alone, terrified and confused. What could I possibly tell you that would make any difference to you finding him?
I suppose you're right, Mrs. Harris. My apologies if I upset you. I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
No, I've never seen it before. Do you think it was left by the kidnapper?
Perhaps. Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
No, I can't think of anyone or anything I know with those initials.
I found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, I don't recognize it. It looks like it came from some cheap coat. Is that what the ruffian who took my baby was wearing?
That's what I'm trying to determine. That's all for now, Mrs. Harris.
Sounds like you didn't
Very well.
even go into the nursery. Those clues are out in the open, so easy to find.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
Tell me everything you can about the kidnapping.
I don't know much. I was out last night while it happened.
Where had you been previously?
I was out with friends. My wife can verify the time I arrived home.
It seems hiding something from your spouse is an activity both Harrises partake in.
I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
Looks like it came from a piece of clothing. Possibly a jacket.
Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
Maybe? I can't really say. You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Fordham. I've got quite a lot on my mind right now. If I can think of anything, I'll be sure to let you know. Charles is a good boy. Very quiet. Miriam had wanted a child almost from the moment we married. You know how women are when they have their hearts set on something. I saw no need to rush, but...
Nice to know you're not the only one. Hey, Miles.
The first 2 times Miriam was with child, she suffered some unfortunate accidents. She was devastated, as you can imagine. So when Charles finally came along, he turned out to be quite a blessing. I can't imagine what sort of depraved madman would take him from us like this. You must find him, Mr. Fordham.
I intend to, Mr. Harris. Tell me about yourself.
There isn't much to tell, really. My life has been fairly well publicized in the newspapers.
Let's pretend for a moment that I skip over the society pages.
Well, I'm an investor. My father Clyde runs Harris Construction Company, which I will someday inherit. Any other details about me are fairly trivial nonsense, I think.
I found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, not at all. Do you think the kidnapper might have left it behind?
It's a distinct possibility. Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right.
The Harris family certainly has a nice view from which to
I
look
want to
down
walk
upon
around
the
the
world.
balcony that
I
wraps
wonder if
around
they
the
use the
entire
balcony
house.
to give speeches to the gardeners.
Don't mind me, just gonna walk in here. They didn't stop me.
Fancy. Some poor servant's probably going to get a flogging for leaving it in here, though. Who in their right mind would need that many drawers?
Me.
It looks like a pile of women's clothes. Must belong to Mrs. Harris. Wardrobes are usually always full of wonderfully dark secrets. Oh, another 4-poster. The Harris family certainly makes no secret of their wealth. One thing is for certain, Mr. Harris uses entirely too much starch on his shirts. Yeah, it seems like this is where Mrs. Harris keeps her unmentionables. I like the ones with the frills and the stitched cat. Paperwork and receipts. Nothing particularly interesting here. More lacy underthings. I wonder which Harris they belong to. Mr. Harris's color selection is almost as drab as yours.
Let's see if there's anything of interest in any of the pockets.
So, Mr. Harris is a fan of the ponies, is he? I'm sure that's not causing him any trouble at all.
He was a gambling man.
An empty suitcase. I suppose Mr. Harris must travel every now and then. Mr. Harris's color...
Okay, see if we could check any more pockets.
Painting of the city. Probably the only time the Harris family sees any of the other boroughs.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Harris, what can you tell me about these?
What? How did you...
Listen, I'm trying to help you and your family. I can't do it if I don't get the entire truth.
Do you think we could discuss this somewhere more private?
I suppose we could.
Good. Let's move to the nursery then.
Now, would I have had an opportunity to just talk to the wife first to be like, about these betting stubs? She'd be like, you're out gambling again? How dare you, our child is missing.
Shall we continue our conversation, Mr. Harris?
Yes, of course.
Now that your wife is out of earshot, tell me about the kidnapping and what these betting stubs have to do with it.
Right. As I said before, it had already happened when I got home. I had just come from spending the evening at the meadows.
I see. I take it your wife isn't impressed by your hobby?
I promised her weeks ago that I would stop going, but I've had such a good streak lately. The last thing I wanted was to upset her further, yet it would be foolish of me to just give up on something so promising.
Dude, you need help.
Can you think of anyone who might want to do you harm by taking your son?
Several, I'm afraid.
Go on.
I haven't exactly had the best of luck, Mr. Fordham. That's why this latest streak was so important to me. The truth is, I've gambled away most of my money. I've had to take out several loans so Miriam doesn't get suspicious. If she ever found out, it would be over. I can't lose her, Mr. Fordham. I just can't.
Where have I heard this before? You know, things would be so much easier if people just talked to each other.
I've tried doing business above board, but lately I've had to seek other resources.
What do you mean?
I was forced to visit a lending office. The owner was a rather shady Sambo, but I figured he'd be easier to deal with than the usual sheenies that run those type of places.
Can you believe this guy? Maybe we should just leave the kid be. He'd probably be better raised by wolves.
Who was the owner?
Mr. LaFay. I didn't bother to get his first name. His business is an abattoir row in Chumley. Horrid place, but I was desperate.
You think this Mr. LaFay may have taken your son as collateral?
Let's just say there isn't much those type of people wouldn't do to put a crown in their pocket.
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right. If you don't mind, Mr. Fordham, I'm going back to the living room. I don't want Miriam getting suspicious.
Can I rat him out?
Sit tight, Mrs. Harris. I may have more questions for you later.
I just wanted to see if we could go ahead and rat him out. But let's go visit our new location instead. Oh, we got two new locations. The lending off. Well, Mrs. Davis is like right here.
Come in.
Good day to you, ma'am. I'm Miles Fordham, a private investigator. I'm looking into the kidnapping of Charles Harris. Are you Mrs. Davis?
I am. Oh, bless the spirits. They've sent someone to help at last.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Tell me about the kidnapping of Charles Harris.
Oh, dear. May the spirits forgive me. I feel so awful. Charlie was my responsibility, and I failed.
Mrs. Davis, that is beside the point. What's important now is finding him and bringing him home. To do that, I need your full cooperation.
Oh, you're right, Mr. Fordham. I'm sorry. I just need to collect my thoughts, get the negative vibrations out of my mind. Now, what specifically would you like to know?
Oh, whoa, a lot.
What time did the kidnapping occur?
I'm not entirely sure. I know I was in the nursery having a cup of tea about 8:30. I remember feeling very drowsy. I must have passed out then because the next thing I knew, I was being woken by Mrs. Harris. To think, whoever took Charlie did it while I was in the room. Oh, may the spirits grant me peace.
Do you happen to take any sort of sleep medications or soporifics?
Oh, dear me, no. Those types of drugs cloud the mind and make it impossible to tune into the ether.
You say that as though it were a bad thing.
I beg your pardon?
Apologies, I spoke out of turn. Can you think of anyone who would have wanted to take the child?
Well, I'm not one to gossip, but I am quite sensitive to the energy and vibrations that people give off. I get the impression that Mr. and Mrs. Harris aren't very happy in their marriage.
Ah, come on, anyone could have picked up on that. Anyone except you, that is.
Mr. Harris likes to stay out late and not take his wife with him. I can't remember the last time they went out together. I don't know what he gets up to, but it's possible he may have made some enemies.
Can you think of any reason why someone would want to kidnap Charles?
It might have been for money, but last I heard there was no demand for a ransom. I honestly don't know why this happened, Mr. Fordham. I just hope you find the poor child. He must be scared to death.
I found this piece of torn fabric in the nursery. Does it look familiar to you?
No, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
I found this button in the baby's crib. Do you recognize it?
Why, yes. That's one of Barney's eyes.
Barney?
Charlie's stuffed bear. It's his favorite toy, a gift from my friend Linda.
I didn't find a stuffed bear in the nursery.
Then whoever took the baby must have taken Barney as well. Oh, at least the poor thing has something to comfort him. Bless the spirits.
And the fact that the mother did not know, did not recognize that this button was on presumably her child's favorite toy. She just said, oh, it's some cheap coat. They have not spent any time with their son. They're so self-absorbed.
Who is Linda?
Mrs. Linda Walker. She's a good friend of mine. As I said, she gave me Barney as a gift for Charlie.
Can you tell me anything else about her?
Oh, she's a lovely girl, very much in tune with her spiritual nature. I greatly enjoy my conversations with her.
When was the last time you saw her?
Oh, I don't remember. No, wait. It was at the last Spectre Society meeting on the 19th. That's right.
Spectre Society, that sounds fun. SS!
What is the Spectre Society?
It's a club for spiritualists and amateur investigators of the paranormal. We meet twice a month to socialize and discuss our findings.
I see. Sounds fascinating.
No, I don't expect you to share my beliefs, Mr. Fordham.
Oh, I have a bit more experience than you'd think with regards to the spirit world.
You can say that again.
Where exactly do these meetings take place?
At a private residence in Gascon.
May I have the address?
Why, yes, it's 325 Rougemont. Are you going to seek spiritual guidance to find Charlie?
Perhaps. You never know what might be worth looking into. Do you have Linda Walker's address?
No, I don't. I never visited her home. I get the feeling she doesn't like having visitors or being home very much. She prefers to meet people
That's
elsewhere.
suspicious.
I was the same way after my husband died. It was embarrassing for my friends to see me living so differently. But I feel it's not just a matter of pride for dear Linda. I think there are lots of bad memories associated with where she lives. I try to stay away from places like that. They leave a mark on the soul, you know.
How long have you worked as a nanny?
Only a few years. I never had to work when I was married. My husband had a lot of money. Unfortunately, he was in great debt. And after the spirits took him back to the ether, I wasn't left with much. So I began working as a nanny to make ends meet. But I consider taking care of children a reward in its own right.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
That was a lot to process.
My mother had a pewter teapot as well. Always made the tea taste funny. Seems like that boiler's the only thing in here that's less than 10 years old. Another Harris hand-me-down, no doubt. You'd think they would have washed it first. It's a spirit reaching out to a very frightened man. Possibly the fakest looking photo I've ever seen. That chest is full of undressed dolls? What the hell is wrong with this old bat?
She has a hobby. Don't knock it.
Painting of a tower on a Scottish moor. I wish I'd been able to make it over there.
Though, they could be voodoo dolls, and we did make that woman very unhappy in the last case, so if we have to talk to her again, oh, that will be rough.
This looks like a mourning portrait of a young woman, probably a relative of Mrs. Davis. Painting of a misty forest with a cemetery in the background. Cheery stuff.
Hey, did you guys know that there's an actual difference between a cemetery and a graveyard? I learned this on a ghost tour. But a graveyard is associated or connected to a church. A cemetery is like a commercial graveyard. It's its own thing. It's not affiliated with a church. I just thought that was an interesting fact. And now you know it too.
Her Majesty Queen Jessica. This was clearly painted a long time ago. Pretty distinguished looking gentleman. Handsome. Good fashion sense. Wonder who he is. A boy taking a nap under a tree while his dog runs around in the distance. That brings back some good memories. These are all books on spiritualism and the occult. Mrs. Davis doesn't seem to have many other hobbies.
Are we in the dark side, detective? Ooh, baby.
The Harris family doesn't seem to hold the comfort of their servants in very high regard. I think a bed of nails would be an improvement.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
Ooh, Spectre Society. Well, let's go to the lending office first.
Hello, sir. Welcome to LaFay Lenders. I'm the owner, Chester LaFay. Are you looking to take out a loan?
Not today, I'm afraid. I'm Miles Fordham, a private investigator.
Look, I don't know what you've heard, but I run a clean business here. I don't need any trouble.
And I'm not here to cause any, for the moment.
Just keep your nose where it belongs, and we should get along fine.
Do you suppose LaFay turns the heat up to put some pressure on his clients? Must be soothing for LaFay to be able to look at this landscape while he sits at his desk.
What's he gonna look out this window? What's he gonna get? Like a street view? Hey, I don't have any windows in my office. I just have cool art on the wall, so I can look up and have something to look at that's cool.
A crew escaping a shipwreck on a violent sea. Not the most comforting painting to look at while waiting for a loan.
Ooh, are these psychological tactics? He looks over here, says, what a luscious green pasture full of opportunity. And the people coming to take out the loans are like, yeah, I'm really that desperate.
He actually has a degree in business from the University of New Britannia? What a waste. LaFay with a woman and a small girl. I wouldn't have taken him for a family man. I shudder to think how many people's financial freedoms are locked away in that cabinet. That's the latest model Computron. They don't come cheap. LaFay must be doing pretty well for himself.
Mr. LaFay, I'd like to ask you some questions.
Fine, but keep it brief.
Tell me what you know about Malcolm Harris.
Ah, Mr. Harris. Took out a loan about a month ago. Still hasn't paid me back. In fact, he sent along a letter yesterday saying he was having an emergency and needed more time. I probably should have refused to do business with him. As soon as he walked through the door, I could tell his type.
What type is that?
Upper class, bored with his life, trying to escape and doing it through vice. In his case, gambling.
This guy is good. Maybe you can pursue money lending if the whole private investigator thing doesn't work out.
But for some reason, I pitied him and decided to give him the loan anyway. Compassion isn't exactly an asset in this business, you see.
Nothing to worry about in your case, then.
Aside from that, I don't know anything about him. I prefer to keep how much I know about my clients to a minimum. Makes things easier for me.
Exactly how much did Mr. Harris borrow from you?
Is that relevant to your investigation?
It would help to have an idea of exactly how much he owes you, yes.
I don't feel comfortable telling you the exact amount, but I will say it was over 500 crowns.
A considerable sum.
Like I said, I probably shouldn't have done it, but I'll get the money back one way or another.
Okay.
Take a look at this piece of fabric. Does it look familiar to you?
Sure, it looks like it came from a jacket. In fact, yes, it's the same fabric as the jacket I'm
No.
wearing.
Would you mind if I took a look at your jacket?
Sure, not a problem. Here.
Okay. Trying to see if I could do like a 3D spin. I can, I just have to click. Okay, it doesn't look like it's missing anything, so it's probably a ready-to-made piece. You know, that anyone can just buy. What's the steampunk equivalent of Walmart? It's that.
No tears in mine, huh?
Not a one. You clearly take good care of your clothing.
I don't mean to discourage you, Mr. Fordham, but I've seen a lot of people with this style of jacket. Hell, even Malcolm has one. I remember he was wearing it when he came in here.
I see. Thank you for the information, Mr. LeFay.
Can I keep talking to him, though?
I've got some more questions, Mr. LeFay.
Go ahead, then.
Are you aware that Malcolm's son, Charles, was kidnapped last night?
I had no idea he even had a son. As I said, I don't ask my clients too many personal questions. Though now you've told me, I suppose that would explain the emergency he mentioned in his letter. Poor guy.
What's your policy regarding people who don't pay their loans back?
There are a few options. For the first 3 months or so, I'll send them a letter reminding them. After that, I start to threaten them with legal action. You wouldn't believe some of the things people do to avoid paying back their loans. One client went so far as to fake his own death.
Do you ever employ any more unusual methods?
Now wait just a minute. I see where this is going. Mr.
Oh,
Fordham,
I didn't want to make
I'm
him
a family man
upset.
myself. If you're implying that I would stoop to kidnapping someone's child as collateral...
I never said that, Mr. LeFay.
Look, I have a family to consider.
Just get
I'm not
kicked out
about to
of this
go get my
location and we can
hands
never
dirty
come
when
back.
there's plenty of legitimate ways to handle the situation.
I guess it wouldn't have been the first time and it won't be the last.
Tell me a bit about yourself and your business, Mr. LeFay.
What's to tell? I lend people money, they pay me back.
Surely it's not that simple.
Well, of course I charge interest, otherwise I'd never make a profit. I know people don't look upon the service I provide very favorably, but without my help, there would be a lot more unhappiness in the world.
How did you go about starting up this business?
I didn't. My former employer, Mr. Roth, left it to me when he passed.
That was rather good of him.
Yes, well, he didn't have any heirs, and he considered me to be the son he never had. He was fond of my family, too. I try and keep my work and home life as far away from each other as I can, though. There's a lot of things in this line of work that my wife and daughter are better off not knowing about.
I think that's all for now.
What if, while the husband was gambling, the wife was at the Spectre Society? So the husband, that's off of his coat, and then the wife left the handkerchief. I think that's where we're heading. Awful people.
I wouldn't like to have a street lamp right outside my window. Not without a good set of thick curtains, anyway. Too dark to tell what's inside. They must enjoy the somber atmosphere. Too dark to...
Okay.
Yes? May I help you?
Hello, ma'am. My name's Miles Fordham, and I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Are you with the police?
No, I'm a private investigator.
I'm terribly sorry, darling, but I simply don't have the time right now. Perhaps if you come back next week, I'll be able to answer your questions
Dang it.
then.
This is the Spectre Society, right? I'm interested in joining.
Ah, yes it is. Welcome, darling. Our membership process is a bit different to most social clubs. We require a sponsor.
Sounds simple enough.
Well, you see, we ask that sponsors be people who have passed on into the spirit world. Once you name your sponsor, I will attempt communication beyond the
time for you to
ether.
step up.
When they answer, you will be judged and considered for membership.
What are you looking for in a sponsor?
A willingness to communicate from beyond the ether, open-mindedness, a desire for truth. In other words, all the qualities of a member of the Spectre Society. Actually, we've had former members who have passed on act as sponsors before.
I've got a sponsor.
Excellent. What is the name of your sponsor, darling?
Bill Legere is my sponsor.
Seriously, Fordham? I thought you knew better than that.
Bill Legere.
Right.
Very well. I will attempt to communicate with him.
Because Bill is just a voice in my head.
She can do this all day. It's not gonna work.
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble communicating. Perhaps you can come back and try again later?
See? Told you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of what I feel like. I'm totally down for Bill being a ghost, but I feel like Bill is not really there. He's just a voice in our head. So instead of us thinking our thoughts and parsing them out on our own, we're using Bill as a coping mechanism. So when we think, it's him talking to us, so we feel like we're still talking to him. Does that make sense? We've got a lot of baggage, is what I'm trying to get at. But I think this is where the wife was. Oh wait, maybe we need to go back to...
Hello again, Mr. Ford.
Oh, or we could talk.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, well, maybe she could tell us about getting a sponsor for the Spectre Society, but I think that's where the wife was while the husband was out gambling. She dropped the handkerchief. He dropped his piece of coat or the fabric in the button or whatever, the toy. They were in on it together. They did something to their son, or had someone they trust taken away. They staged it, is what I'm getting at. They staged everything.
That's a lovely portrait. Who is it of?
That is my late husband, Jonathan. He used to attend meetings of the Spectre Society with me, bless him. I tried to get him to be more in tune with the other side, but I think he was just humoring me. He was a good man. Everyone at the Society cared for him very much.
I couldn't help but notice that chest full of dolls in the corner.
Oh, that. Oh, I know it must look a bit strange, but I pick up old and broken dolls so they can be repaired and donated to orphanages.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's my way of giving back to the community and helping poor children who have nothing to play with.
Well, what a kind soul. I wish she would find less creepy ways to express her altruism.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
Oh, hello again. How may I help you?
I'd like to name a new sponsor.
Yes, of course. Who is your new sponsor?
Jonathan Davis is my sponsor.
You knew Jonathan? He was such a kind man. Yes, I can feel his presence, and it speaks positively of you. Please, come in, Mr. Fordham. I am Angela Maxwell, the founder of the Spectre Society. Welcome. May I offer you some refreshments? Some water or tea, perhaps?
You're very kind, but I'm afraid I must decline right now.
Well, please let me know if you change your mind.
Won't you look at this place? It's like a candy store for psychics.
About to say, you offer me tea. Mrs. Davis drank some tea. Did she get that tea from you? That made her so sleepy?
Those are some creepy twin girls. I could see a passing resemblance to Miss Maxwell, actually. There's quite a few members in this group.
Oh, okay. September 19th meeting, number 2, signature. So we got Angela Maxwell, Monica Brown, Sophia Shaw, Thomas Gilbert, Linda Walker, Linda. Can't read that one. Randall Faulkner, Henrietta Davis, Edward Lagrange, Cynthia Wilkins. Comments, Angela. The meeting was wonderful. Anyone interested in a used spirit board, please let Thomas know. Thank you. And, looking forward to having you over at the manor next week. Come around 8 p.m. and you can meet Charlie. Henrietta. And please ask the spirits to cure my son's illness. Sophia. Linda doesn't like anyone at her house. She prefers to go to other places, so... Linda is now a suspect, so Linda. Maybe the handkerchief was Henria's, but then she would have recognized it, right? Because SS. Sophia Shaw. Dang, we're getting a lot of information. Please ask the spirits to cure my son's illness. Oh, Sophia, babe. Babe, did you kidnap somebody else's son? Somebody else's child? And she would have heard about Charlie, and she knows where they're going to be at what time. Oh, Sophia.
He's dead now. But then again, so am I.
What a fascinating device. Exactly what does it do?
That is an etherometer. It's designed to pick up vibrations from the ether and translate messages from the spirits.
Ooh, spooky. That ghost between the two people almost manages to look convincing.
I think I've seen one of these before. What does it do?
It's a spirit board. We use it to contact spirits, and they in turn spell out a message with the letters on the board.
Well, I've got a message from Miss Maxwell if she ever tries to use a spirit board around me. It's nice of Miss Maxwell to let people borrow her books, even if they are all just a bunch of nonsense. And coming from me, that's really saying something.
Secrets of Astral Projection. Metempsychosis. The Art of the Seance. Didn't we see that somewhere else? Or am I just imagining that? Terrors of the Deep, the Giant Squid. Oh, I remember. I think I remember. It's from a different game. Voodoo in New Bretagne. Mediums, gateways to the spirit realm. I'm sorry. I was like... I'm sitting here with my head tilted to the side trying to read the spines of these books. I could just read the bottom of the screen. What lies beyond the veil? Oh, that's so much easier. The mysteries of spontaneous combustion. Secrets of the tarot. Spirits and Aether. Oh, okay, hold on, let's back out. Can I open them all? Astral projection refers to a willful out-of-body experience in which the soul or astral body disconnects from the physical body and may travel throughout the universe. The practice dates as far back as the ancient civilizations, with multiple depictions by the Egyptians of the soul or ka leaving the body before death. The expression astral projection means journeying to other worlds, heavens, hells, the astrological spheres, and other imaginable landscapes. But the term is also applied to non-physical travel around the physical world. Though this usage continues to be widespread, the term etheric travel, used by some later theosophists, offers a useful distinction. Some experiments say they visit different times and or places. Etheric then is used to represent the sense of being out of the body in the physical world, whereas astral may connote some alteration in time perception. Bill, this is a leap. This is a big fat leap, but I think the end of the game, we're gonna save you. We're gonna save you from death. I'll never get hooked on soporifics. And we're gonna have a happy ending. This etheric body is usually, though not always, invisible, but is often perceived by the experiment as connected to the physical body during separation by a silver cord. Some link falling dreams with projection. Other experiments may describe a domain that has no parallel to any known physical setting. Environments may be populated or unpopulated, artificial, natural, or abstract, and the experience may be beatific, horrific, or neutral. A common theosophical belief is that one may access a compendium of mystical knowledge called the Akashic Records. In many accounts, the experiencer correlates the astral world with the world of dreams. Some even report seeing other dreamers and acting dream scenarios unaware of their wider environment. Metempsychosis, from the Greek meta, expressing change, and psyche, soul, refers to the philosophical idea of transmigration of the soul at the time of death. That's my favorite genre of manhwa. I freaking love transmigration stories. They're amazing. And if there's a villainess, don't get me started. That is to say, the reincarnation of a soul in another human or animal. This is because I love isekai. It is thought to have originated with Orpheus in the 6th century BC. Orpheus proclaimed that the body and the soul were two separate entities chained together in life. Upon death, this bond was dissolved, and the divine soul was freed from its corporeal prison. However, until the soul attained absolute purity, it was fated to continue the cycle of reincarnation. Deeds done in life would affect the soul's purity and determine how much longer its spiritual journey would go before ascending to heaven. He died. And the first thing he does when he leaves his body is pet a cat. Or is he going into the cat and possessing it? No, I like the first explanation. I had better. He's like, I'm dead, but before I go to the great beyond, I must pet Mr. Snuggles one more time. The theory postulates that the soul of a human or animal will be transferred to another living being. Some characteristics or personality traits of the soul are usually preserved throughout reincarnations, for example, eye color or an affinity towards a particular person or item. There is some debate regarding the exact nature of the transferred souls, but it is generally accepted that a human soul will transfer to an animal which is already alive. A soul belonging to an animal or human transferred to a human will enter a body at birth and not one which is already alive. Therefore, it can be useful to confirm a suspected reincarnation if the date of death and birth of the old and new bodies is the same. One popular believed case of metempsychosis comes from medieval Germany, where two feuding families both met their ends. The last of one line was suspected of setting the other stable on fire, during which the other perished. Soon after, a white horse took up residence at the surviving family's estate. While out riding, the estate caught fire, and the horse and rider ran into the flames, killing both. It is said that the horse was the reincarnation of the murdered heir come back to seek revenge on his killer. Interesting. Well, these books are just filled with an abundance of foreshadowing, aren't they? Conducting a seance is not a matter to be taken lightly. When making attempts to contact those in the spirit realm, many precautions must be observed. The spirit medium must be in a relaxed state prior to commencing the seance. This can be achieved through meditation, prayer, or medicinal means. Oh, we're gonna have to take our soporifics and use a spirit board, aren't we? Is that where we're headed? Okay. An agitated medium will have an extremely negative impact on the quality of the seance and may even attract violent spirits. During the seance, the medium will act as a vessel for spirits and pass on messages from the deceased. In some instances, a spirit board may be used. These are flat tablets, typically made of wood. On the board are a number of symbols, pictures, letters, numbers, and/or words. The board is accompanied by a planchette, French for little board, which can take the form of a pointer on 3 legs or a magnifying glass on legs. A most basic spirit board would contain simply the alphabet of whatever country the board is being used in, although it's not uncommon for whole words to be added. The board is used as follows. 1 to all of the participants in the seance. Place 2 or 1 fingers on the planchette, which is in the middle of the board. The appointed medium asks questions of the spirits with whom they are attempting to communicate. Alright. That's a lot of reading. I do want to read the rest of the books, but I need a little bit of a break, so I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. Thank you so much for joining me. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, because we are going to continue this Lamplight City experience. I don't know how many cases there are, but we're currently in the 2nd one. And as always, I hope to see you next time. Bye!